Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we're going to look at some more new decks from Japan from our next set, Twilight Masquerade. Now, Twilight Masquerade does come out in just a few short weeks, which I'm excited for, but in the last video where we looked at winning deck lists in Japan from Twilight Masquerade, it was mostly Dragapult EX decks, and like Greninja stuff, like more of that. We didn't really get to see some of the new cards, like the Ogerpon. I really wanted to look at Palafin EX decks, and I didn't see any Palafin decks in any of the top 8s in the City League, so I wanted to do a separate video where we looked at Palafin lists from Japan, but I also wanted to look at just what was doing good in Japan for these other archetypes here, and I went on to Pokebook to look at some of these more new decks. So I do want to see other lists for Twilight Masquerade. That's not just Dragapult EX as well. Dragapult EX definitely looks like it's going to be a potential top-tier archetype. You know, I wanted to see what other decks were doing good out of Twilight Masquerade and see what else people were cooking up from the new set in Japan. I'll leave a link to Pokebook, the website I'm using, down in the description below. And if you're new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 14K subs, and make sure to go on and leave a like on the video if you enjoy the video. So, starting these off, we do have Ogerpon here. So I want to start off with Ogerpon. One of the more interesting new cards coming out of the new set is the 4 new Ogerpon EXs. Now, I do have Cerebi pulled up here to look at the scans and translations for each of the new cards. So just in case you don't know what a certain card does, I can pull it up here and give it a read. But yeah, starting things off, we do have the Ogerpon. And starting things off with the Ogerpon, we actually have an Ogerpon, a Regidrago V-Star list. Not what I was expecting to see, but I love me some Regidrago. So if you don't know what the new Ogerpon Teal Mask does, it does have the ability Teal Dance. Once you're in turn, you may attach a basic grass energy from your hand to this Pokemon. If you do, you can draw a card, and then you have that main attack Myriad Leaf Shower. That does 30 plus 30 more damage for each energy on both active Pokemon. So use the Ogerpon here to get grass energy in play, and then what you can do is you can synergize that with the Regidrago V-Star with Energy Switch. You can see this build is using Energy Switch. One thing I will say about Regidrago V-Star is it does gain a new dragon. You can see it does play Dragapult EX. Drago is a pretty versatile card, being able to copy Goodra V-Star for the bulk. You got the Noivern EX to help against like Ancient Box. You have that Altaria that puts your opponent to sleep. And then, of course, you have Dragapult EX, which is a pretty good addition to Regidrago. It's a little bit more of like a turbo-y build of Regidrago because you are using the 4 energy switch to move the grass energy from your Ogerpon to your Regidrago. And then you also have like a grass attacker in the deck with the Ogerpon too, which would help a little bit against Charizard if you do run into that. Charizard is starting to fall off a little bit in Japan due to how popular Dragapult is, but we'll have to see if Charizard keeps up the pressure. We have another Regidrago, Dragapult, or Regidrago Ogerpon list here. Does still play Dragapult, does have other attackers like Giratina and also the Raging Bolt. Does play similar stuff. You got the Gardenia in the deck to help power up your Drago. You got the 4 energy switch. Just play a fresh water set, trying to really tech for the the Dragapult matchup to heal your stuff. Now, one thing to note too about this these two lists, they're playing Scoop Up Cyclone for the Ace spec. So I guess they're trying to pick up the Squawk maybe, or pick up the... I don't know if you're going to try to pick up your Drago. We're probably going to be picking up the Ogerpon, I would imagine, is what that's for. We got another Grass Ogerpon list. A lot of Grass Ogerpon so far. And this one is using Blissey EX, which I guess we can pull up what Blissey EX does here over in the color section. Blissey EX is a bulky Stage 1 Pokemon with the ability Happy Switch. Once during your turn, you may move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon, and then you have the attack return that does 180 damage, and then you can draw cards until you have 6 in your hand. So you do combine that here with the Grass Ogerpon. You can use the Grass Ogerpon to put energy in play, and then you can have a couple Blisseys in play, and then you can move the energy around. It actually does play Toedscruel EX as an attacker. Now, Toedscruel does do a bunch of damage when you have a bunch of Pokemon in play with grass energy attached to them. Now, obviously, we've looked at Toedscruel in the past with Charm. That archetype no longer exists because Charm did unfortunately rotate, but this build is trying to use Blissey's ability to move energy off the Ogerpon when you attach the energy to your Ogerpon, and you can move it around. So it's an interesting concept. It does play Crushing Hammer, which Crushing Hammer actually might come back in the format, which I don't want to see this, but due to Dragapult EX's popularity and the fact that Dragapult would be a bit weaker to stuff like Crushing Hammer, it could happen. So that's probably why this list plays Crushing Hammer. We have another Grass Ogerpon list here. Displaying the new Sinistcha here. Sinistcha EX now. It does have that 1 energy attack where you can put all your grass energy from the discard pile back in your deck. You can then do 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each grass energy put in back in your deck. I think we've already looked at a similar list to this in one of my previous videos, except it now has the Ogerpon to play, because the original build didn't have access to the Grass Ogerpon, but I've already looked at a Sinistcha list already If you want to go look back, you can, because we do have another one here. It looks like this one does not play the EX, it looks like. It does still play the One Prizer. The One Prizer, I think, discards up to 3 grass energy from your Pokemon. You can do 70 damage for each grass energy discarded. So you can do 210 damage for like 1 energy or something. That's basically what it does. You use the Ogerpon to put grass in play, and then you use the Sinistcha to take a big knockout. We'll see how these grass Pokemon fare, because obviously, you know, we are now seeing Dragapult potentially take over Charizard's popularity. We have another Regidrago V-Star build here of the Ogerpon. This one did get top 16. Both actually, the two lists above us did get top 16 in a City League. But this one also did get top 16. Does still play 2 Dragapult. Actually leans more into the Dragapult. 2 Dragapult. Plays Mew. Plays a couple Judge in the deck too for some disruption. Playing Prime Catcher. That's the A-Spec. And we got a Water Ogerpon deck. Now, Water Ogerpon does look kind of sneaky. Now, this actually might be more of a... I mean, it's an interesting build. It looks kind of like a control-style archetype. So let's pull up the Water Ogerpon here real quick so I can show what it does. We got the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. So it does have the attack Sob during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon can't retreat. And then you have the attack Torrential Pump, which does water and a double colorless, does 100 damage, and then you may shuffle 3 energy from this Pokemon into your deck. If you do, this attack also does 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is obviously a very strong attack because it's very similar to Rapid Strike Urshifu. It's very similar to Delphox V, where you're doing that big snipe. You do get to put the energy back in your deck. You're not lost zoning it like Delphox. Now, in the previous video, we are seeing a Lugia V-Star decks play this card because they can put Legacy energy on it, and they can use Torrential Pump, which does seem kind of scary. Now, this build just kind of opting for, I guess, more of a control-style approach. It is playing Pidgeot. It's got Alakazam in the deck. I guess, you know, it's trying to be more of a control deck. You have the Milotic in the deck, so your opponent can't play Turo Scenario or Penny to move the Pokemon. You're trying to lean more into the first attack, I guess, where you're trying to trap your opponent in the active spot. I guess that's what this build is trying to do. It's more of like a control archetype. We got another Grass Ogerpon here with the new Sinistcha EX that puts the grass energy back into your deck. Playing a 1/1 Rabsca, probably teching it for Dragapult. We got another Sinistcha EX Ogerpon EX deck here, once again doing the similar concept. And then we have another Blissey build here. Now, this one does play a brand new Iron Leaves. Now, the new Iron Leaves does do 160 damage if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your last turn. So you can use the Iron Leaves as a One Prizer. That does 160. It is going to fall a little bit short on Charizard knockouts, which is a little sad. But I guess you already have the Ogerpon in the deck to handle the KOs in the Charizard. But it is another Blissey build where you're just trying to use Blissey to move energy around. I guess one thing to note about Blissey, it does have that Chansey from 151 where I think if you take it off your prizes or whatever, you can like put into play for free, and you take an extra prize or something like that. It does something similar to that, if I remember correctly. And now I'm curious, actually. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. Let me pull it up here on TCG Live. I know you can't see it, but yeah, if you took it as a face-down prize during your turn, your bench is in full, you can put on your bench, and then you flip a coin. If heads, you can take a prize card. So that's actually kind of cool. So I guess if you are playing Blissey, you do get access to a pretty decent Chansey that does let you potentially take an extra prize card. So that could be kind of cool. We got another Sinistcha build here with the Ogerpon. Got weirder in the deck. We got another Ogerpon Sinistcha deck. This one did get top 16. A lot of the list here are getting like top 16s. And as a grass deck, it's not bad. So we got a couple more of them here to look at. We can scroll through these. We got a couple more of them. Then we have another interesting build here. It's an Ogerpon build with Blissey, but it does play an interesting card in the deck here. I guess we can pull up this new card. Forget what the Pokemon is called exactly, but we're going to look at it because it is an interesting card that could see play. Yeah, Monkey Dory, I think it is. So, Monkey Dory, if this Pokemon has any dark energy on it, you can move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So, that's kind of cool. So when something takes a hit, you can move the damage off of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which is essentially like a plus 30 damage almost in some scenarios, which is kind of nice. Now, you do have to put a dark energy on it, but you can see in this build, using that Blissey, you can sometimes get the dark energy in play early, and then you can move it to the Monkey Dory. You have the Cape, Hero's Cape in the deck, probably with Blissey, because you are playing at 3 Charon's Care. It's more of like an attacking Blissey deck, trying to get the energy in play, and using the Monkey Dory to take the 3 damage off Blissey. Blissey does have 300 HP. Combine that, of course, with the Hero's Cape, you can give that thing 400 HP, making that Blissey super, super tanky. All right, now this one's kind of cool. We got a Ogerpon toolbox deck here, which is kind of sick to see. Now, this Ogerpon deck does rely a little bit heavily onto the Grass Ogerpon to get the energy in play. As you can see, it does play the 4 Luminous Energy and the brand new Legacy Energy in the deck. Now, if you Forgot what the other two Ogerpons do. So we got the Fighting Ogerpon here, which I guess we can pull up the Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, where prevent all damage on this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon with an ability. And then you have the attack Demolish, that does 140 damage, and then it isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. And then we got the Fire Ogerpon here, which is kind of strong. It's got the it's got two different attacks here. You got Dynamic Blaze, which for some reason there's no text on it. But it does 140 damage, and if your opponent's active Pokemon, I think it's like an EX or something, it's like does 280 damage, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure where the text went. Let me refresh the page. Huh. Okay, I don't know where the text is, but it does it can do 280 damage. Essentially, is what you need to know. And then you got the attack Wrathful Heart that does 20 damage for each damage counter on it, so you can do a bunch of damage when this thing takes a hit. And then of course we do have the brand new tool card, or the new Ogre's Mask item card here, that choose a Pokemon EX, you discard pile with Ogerpon in the name, and you switch it with one of your Pokemon EX and play that as Ogerpon in its name. Any attached cards, damage counters, and effects will stay on the new Pokemon. So you basically use the Grass Ogerpon to get energy in play, and then you can use the mask to swap it with an Ogerpon in your discard pile. Now, we do see a lot of the grass ones, but also a very heavy count of the Cornerstone Ogerpon. I mean, it's just a very nice card, right? The ability is very good. Being able to be immune to Pokemon with an ability is a very strong effect. You can see in that build, display 3 of those because you are trying to lean into that. But you do have stuff like the water one in the deck, the Snipe attack. You do have the fire guy in the deck, and then you got the Radiant Charizard also as a backup attacker, since you are playing the 4 Luminous Energy and the Legacy Energy in the deck. So it's a very cool concept. We'll have to see if this all Ogerpon deck can actually be a legit deck or not. We got another grass Ogerpon build here. We got another grass build playing some interesting stuff. It's got more of a toolbox approach, actually, really trying to lean into the Thorntons, actually. So you're trying to use the Ogerpon EX to put energy in play, and then you try to Thornton into something like Iron Hands EX. We can see 2 Iron Hands. We see the Iron Leaves in the deck, too, as a way to, you can use the Ogerpon to get energy in play and then come in with Iron Leaves. It is playing Bibarel. It's got Fluttermane in the deck. It's even playing the Wo-Chien EX and a 1/1 Lilligant V-Star. Very interesting concept. That Survival Cast A-Spec is also interesting to see in the deck. It's an interesting toolbox approach. It did get top 8, which is kind of interesting, too. It's a top 8 list. Another grass one with the Sinistcha. We got just a quad Ogerpon deck here. So just all out, just trying to use Ogerpon. It's quad Ogerpon. 24 grass energy in the deck. You got the 4 Gardenia to get energy in play. You got the Vessel, the new grass item card, 2 energy switch, 3 retrievals, just all in on the approach of using the grass Ogerpon. That's kind of funny. Hey, it works. We got another toolbox. Now, this one's not playing the Fire Ogerpon, but it does play the Water one and the Fighting one, which honestly is maybe all you need. The Fighting Ogerpon is very, very good with that ability to be immune to Pokemon with abilities. It's obviously a very strong effect to have in the format. And then, of course, you do have the Water one. So you still have the main attackers with the 2 different Ogerpons. You have the Water one that can come in. We are playing the Weird Ear V in the deck. You put a bunch of energy in play. You can come and swing in with Weird Ear. You got the Legacy Energy. You still have the 4 mask items. So yeah, this Ogerpon, I don't even know if it's not even a quad Ogerpon deck because you are missing the 4th Ogerpon EX, but just kind of Ogerpon approach using the 3 different ones is kind of cool too. So yeah, another Sinistcha Ogerpon deck. And then we got another build here. Now, this one can, of course, use Blissey in the deck to move energy around. We are seeing the approach here with the 3 different types of Ogerpon, the Fighting Ogerpon, the Water Ogerpon, and then you have the 2/2 Blissey in the deck to move the energy around, and using the Dunsparce as its Drongen over playing a Bibarel. So yeah, that's cool. So yeah, this Ogerpon deck's kind of sick. Again, not playing the Fire Ogerpon, which maybe the Fire Ogerpon just doesn't do enough. Who knows? Another Sinistcha deck. Then we got another build here with the toolbox approach, very similar to the build we already looked at with the Tatsugiri in the deck, and then also the Radiant Charizard. It does play the Fire guy, obviously, but again, leaning more into the Fighting and Grass Ogerpon as your 2 attackers. We got another build here doing kind of a similar concept here, leaning more into the Grass and Fire. Not playing the Tatsugiri or the Radiant Charizard, though. And this one also, once again, playing the Fighting Ogerpon and the Grass one. A little bit more of a Fighting Ogerpon deck, though. As you can see, it does have the 4 Fighting Ogerpon in the deck. This is like a sample deck, it looks like. But then we got another one, just another grass build. But yeah, those are the Ogerpon decks. Again, the Grass Ogerpon does look like it's going to be the best build of Ogerpon to play because it does have the most universal attacks. It's also a grass Pokemon. The Fighting Ogerpon is pretty good. The Water Ogerpon is good. And the Fire one, we didn't really get to see any Fire decks. I didn't see any Armor Rouge decks or anything. I was surprised we didn't see any Fire Ogerpon. It's unfortunate. But that card definitely could see play, right? We got Luxray EX here next. Now, Luxray EX is a pretty strong and annoying card that could see some play due to what it can do. So let's see if we can find this Luxray real quick to show what it does. Luxray EX here. So yeah, it's got 2 attacks. You got the first attack, which is kind of the main one. You got Piercing Glint, which for 2 colorless energy, it is 2 colors, right? Yeah, 2 colorless energy. I don't know why it says 1. 2 colorless energy does 120 damage. You can look at your opponent's hand to discard a card you find there. And then you have Volt Strike, which for 2 lightning, discard all energy from this Pokemon, and it does 250 damage. The main thing with this Luxray is going to be that first attack, Piercing Glint. Being able to look at your opponent's hand for free and discard a card you find there is really, really strong, really powerful, and pretty disruptive, especially when you pair it with hand disruption cards. So we can see this first list here is playing the 3 Luxrays. You obviously have to get Luxray out via Rare Candy, so you have to play the Shinx, but we can see this build is just kind of leaning all in on the Luxray. It does have 4 Eerie in the deck and 4 Iono, just immediate hand disruption. The one thing that stands out in this build, not playing any Unfair Stamp as you expect, plays Prime Catcher, not playing Roxanne is also kind of interesting. I feel like Roxanne would be decent, or even Judge, but either way, you have the 4 Iono, 4 Eerie. I guess your idea is you Eerie your opponent, and then you Luxray them. You get rid of like 3 cards in a single turn. I guess that's the concept of this Luxray build. We got another Luxray build here. Now this one I kind of like. It's more of a control approach because it does play the Pidgeot EX in the deck. I think Pidgeot Luxray legit could be something to consider trying out because, again, the Luxray is pretty strong with Pidgeot, because it's like basically a new version of like Pidgeot control. Obviously, this build doesn't play like Mimikyu or Mawile or Shiyu or like Wigglytuff or anything like that. We've been seeing the Pidgeot control builds, but you can still pair it with Pidgeot. I think Luxray is probably best with Pidgeot because you can play like a pseudo control deck. And this build is playing the Unfair Stamp Ace Spec. Like I said, you can go Unfair Stamp into Luxray and put your opponent to 1 card in hand. A lot of the time, that 1 card is not very good because you're going to Luxray away the other like good card in their hand if you Unfair Stamp your opponent to 2. And then, of course, Pidgeot can make it easier to control your opponent. This build plays double Eerie. It's got Enhanced Hammer. It's also playing Giacomo here to remove Special Energy. Giacomo might see a little bit more play due to Dragapult being able to abuse stuff like the Neo Up Energy and whatnot. So definitely keep your eye on that. It's got the TM Devo in the deck. So this is definitely looks like it could be a good Luxray control deck. You do have that late game Blood Moon Ursaluna as one of your main attackers. So I kind of like that. And there's only 3 builds of Luxray, unfortunately. There's not a whole lot of them. Again, the set just like the Mask of Change set just came out in Japan. We got another build playing at the Pidgeot in the deck. Like I said, Pidgeot seems like it's the best partner for the Luxray. Now, this Luxray build also is not playing the Unfair Stamp. It's actually playing the Neo Upper Energy, which does allow you to attack for 1 energy on your Luxray. And then, of course, you do have the Pidgeot control aspect. You got the 2 Eries in the deck there. You see you got the Silene in the deck to get back resources. Canceling Clone's interesting. You are playing the Mimikyu in the deck and also playing the 1 prize Luxray, which does make sense. There is a reversal in the deck. The 1 prize Luxray could be nice against opposing Pidgeot. You can fall behind with like Cleffa. You can, you don't even have to use the Luxray's ability to get it out. You can literally evolve it from your Shinx or Luxio, which is kind of funny. But you can get the Luxray out, and then you can, like, reversal energy, counter catcher, kill Pidgeot, and then you can go into Luxray EX, and then start controlling them once the Pidgeot's dealt with. With the Pidgeot in play, you're not able to control their hand as much, because they can just grab any card they want every single turn. But those are 3 different Luxray builds. Again, there's going to be probably more. I might do 1 more of these videos before the Twilight Masquerade releases. So I definitely want to see what else people cook up for Luxray. There is a lot of potential for Luxray, though, and I do like the idea of pairing it with Pidgeot and kind of playing like a pseudo-control archetype, and that type of deck could evolve. I mean, honestly, if you're playing the Luxray EX, you probably don't even need to play Lightning Energy. You can lean into the fire aspect of the deck with like what we've seen with Pidgeot with the Shiyu and the Charizard, and even like the Wigglytuff and the Cloth and stuff. You can play into that. You can just play Luxray with double Turbo Energy. You don't even have to play Lightning Energy if you don't want to. You don't have to lean into the other attack if you really don't want to. All right, time to look at Palafin. Now, this is one of the main reasons I wanted to do this video, was to look at Palafin EX decks. So, unfortunately, we never got to see any Palafin lists in the past video. So, if you don't know what Palafin does here, we're going to pull up Palafin EX here real quick. Palafin does have that broken ability, Hero Spirit. Put this Pokemon into play with the effect of Palafin's 0 to Hero ability, and then you have Giga Impact, which for a single water energy does 250 damage, and then it can attack during your next turn. Palafin does have 340 HP. It's got more health than a Charizard EX, which is absolutely wild. Now, if you don't know what the Finizen does here, or the Palafin, sorry. If you don't know what the Palafin does, it does have that ability 0 to Hero. Now, it is a Stage 1 Pokemon, so it's not a basic, it is a Stage 1. But once you're in turn, when this Pokemon moves from your active spot to the bench, you may search your deck for a Palafin EX and switch it with this Pokemon. Any energy, damage counter, special editions, and all that stuff will stay on the Palafin EX. So in order to get the Palafin into play, you can effectively use Finizen. Now you do have to move the Finizen to the bench, but you can put a rescue board on it. You can put you can play Switch Cart. No, you can't play Switch Cart. You can play Switch, move it to the bench, and then summon Palafin for free. And again, Palafin does have 340 HP, making it pretty bulky. And we'll look at some of the concepts people have come up with. Not a whole lot of them, but we'll take a look at them. Now, this first one does play the Dunsparce as the engine in the deck. It does play Milotic also to stop your opponent from doing Turo. It's got Prime Catcher as the ace spec. Again, Prime Catcher seems like a fitting ace spec for Palafin because you already have the switch effect in the deck. You're going to have to probably switch out your Palafin anyways because of Giga Impact, and then you have to switch out the one prizer Palafin to summon the Palafin EX in the first place. So yeah, that could be kind of cool with the Dunsparce. We got another build here. This one did get top 16. It does play Bibarel in the deck as a Jonjon and has the Monkey Dory in the deck. When you do have a Dark Energy attached to it, you can move the energy around. It does play the Luminous Energy, which I assume Luminous Energy does work with Monkey Dory. So I guess is what they're playing. They got the Luminous Energy to move damage. Again, Palafin has 340 HP. That is not getting KO'd in one hit that often unless you're playing against a Lighting deck or Shempow or something. So like that is kind of insane. You can be super tanky with your Palafin EX, and then you use Monkey Dory to move 3 damage off, which does actually let Palafin do 280 damage in total, which is kind of nuts. And then you have Irida, which is a pretty good support card for Palafin too. So once again, Palafin looking good. You have the one prize Palafin options. You can play 2. Which also does help make Palafin a whole lot stronger. Actually, is there a one-prize Palafin in this set? There is not, it looks like. Okay. There's other one-prize Palafins. There's no other one-prize Palafin. It was in the other sets. Okay. I didn't know if there's one in Twilight Masquerade or not. And then finally, we have a Lost Zone approach. Or wait, there's actually another one after this I lied. But yeah, we have a Lost Zone approach. I actually really like the idea of Lost Box Palafin. I think this actually could be an okay archetype. So Lost Zone engine obviously is pretty solid right now. Ursaluna is a great upgrade to the deck. You have Greninja. The deck plays Raikou obviously to deal with like Pidgeot. But the Palafin does seem pretty good with the Lost Zone engine because you're already playing a ton of switching cards. You can play Jet Energy, which is a huge deal for the deck. You can use Jet Energy to help get the Palafin out. You already have all the switches in the deck for your Comfy. And the Palafin can just be really good with like Cramorant, Sableye. You got Radiant Greninja in the deck as another attacker because you already play the Mirage Gate. You have the Ursaluna. You can play the Raikou in the deck to obviously be really strong into like the Pidgeots and stuff. So I do like the idea of a Lost Box Palafin EX deck. This definitely feels like it could be the best way to play Palafin. It did get top 8, so it looks like currently it's like the best performing Palafin list we've looked at here. But yeah, Palafin with Lost Box seems good. Like I said, you naturally already have all those switching cards in the deck. You also get access to the Lost Zone archetype behind you, so you can use extra attackers. You can do like 250 damage with Palafin and then like clean up with Sableye, or two-shot with Cram or something. So there's definitely a lot of potential with the Lost Zone engine. And then finally, no, there's another build. There's 2 more builds. I lied. I keep lying. I'm trolling. I'm baiting. But this build of Palafin, once again, keeping it more simplistic with the Bibarel approach, just all in on the Palafin, playing a Maximum Belt as the ace spec card. I mean, I guess Palafin doing 300 damage isn't bad. 300 isn't terrible numbers to hit, I guess. Yeah, it's all right. And I guess you have that new Kieran supporter, so you can do like max belt Kieran for like 330 or something to knock out Dragapult and Charizard. All right, this might be last. Yeah, this is the last build. Here we go. Now this one is the final build. It is a Pokeka official channel creation. It just placed the Dunsparce as the engine. It's not a terrible engine. You can switch into Dunsparce or Dunsparce with a free retreat cost. And you can use Runaway Draw and then go back into Palafin and kind of hit and run every turn. Does play, actually, the ace spec of choice is the Hyper Roma to grab the 3-stage 1s over Prime Catcher or Max Belt, which is interesting. So there's Palafin. Again, I really wanted to look at the Palafin list here. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video in the first place, and I am happy to see what I saw. But like I said, Lost on Palafin, I think it's the one that really stands out to me as like potentially the best version of the deck. I guess it might be a little bit more clunkier because you're playing like multiple stage 1s and they don't like flow as well in the Lost Zone. Lost Zone is better off with all the basics, but it still works, I guess. So yeah, Palafin Lost Box seems kind of strong. All right, next up we have the Blissey EX decks. I've already showed what Blissey does. Again, it's got that ability where you move a basic grass energy around, or basic energy around once per turn, and then you can do 180. But we already looked at what Blissey did, so we'll look at the Blissey list here. We've already seen a few of them, so I'm sure some of them are repeats here. Yeah, we do have another Blissey Toadscruel list. I think we already saw that earlier. But this one is a Blissey, a Monkey Dory deck. So this actually seems like it could be a solid archetype. Now, you do need to find a way to get energy in play. And I guess the way to do that is going to be using the TM Turbo Energize, which allows you to put 2 energy into play. You can use double turbo with Blissey. You don't have to commit 3 basic energy to Blissey. You can put double turbo on it. Then you have Monkey Dory. Blissey takes a hit. You can Monkey Dory some of the damage off, and then make Blissey do a little bit more damage. So that's honestly not a bad idea for a Blissey deck, just kind of a quad Blissey approach. You got the 4 Charon's Care. You technically don't need a draw engine when Blissey already draws you cards with return. Its main attack lets you draw until you have 6 in your hand, so you don't really need to play like a super big draw engine. I really like the idea of like just a straight up quad Blissey deck. That seems kind of fun. We got another build of like the quad Blissey approach, playing the Monkey Dory once again. Makes sense. Monkey Dory lets you do that extra bit of damage, heals your Blissey technically. You got Rigid Man, you can play with Blissey. Hero's Cape does play the TM Turbo Energize. Kind of cool to see TM Turbo Energize finally see some play. We got another grass build. We might have already looked at that. We have an Arceus Blissey deck. Now, I think Arc Blissey actually could be solid, too. It is leaning more into the Blissey's instead of the Arc. It's only got a 2-2 Arc line. But yeah, Arc Blissey doesn't seem like a terrible idea. It does also play the Monkey Dory. I guess it's more of a quad Blissey deck again, because you do have the Monkey Dory. The 4 Monkey Dories, 4 for Blissey. But I guess Arceus is just in there for some extra attack power. But yeah, like I said, Monkey Dory, Blissey makes sense. You can Arc to your Arc, and then you can like move the energy around with Blissey and stuff. Makes sense. So yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, this like quad Blissey deck looks kind of cool. I'm definitely excited to try out Blissey Monkey Dory when this new set comes out. I just want to play new cards, man. I just want to play new cards. And we got another Blissey box deck here, playing Arceus, but does have Iron Leaves with some grass energy in the deck. It's not playing the grass Ogerpon, but instead playing the fighting Ogerpon in the deck. Makes sense. You can play like kind of a rainbowy energy effect, playing grass, dark, and fighting energy. You got the Monkey Dory here that can put the dark energy on it, which again is good with Blissey. The build's also playing Serena. Radiant Serena, you might have to play against Dragapult. It's not a bad card to play when you have when your opponent's playing Dragapult, so we might have to see a little bit more Radiant Serena, see some play in the future. We got another Blissey Monkey Dory deck, playing a Liepard as a bit of a draw engine in the deck. Interesting stuff for sure. Playing Hyper Aroma to find your evolutions. Then here we go with another Blissey Monkey Dory. Like I said, playing the Turbo Energize 4 Blissey, the 4 Monkey Dory. Does play 4 water in the deck. The interest, yeah, I guess the water makes sense. You can play Lake Acuity with Blissey to make your Blissey even more tankier. You're just trying to get a super tanky Blissey with the Lake Acuity and, of course, the Rigid Man. And you also have the Hero's Cape. You're just trying to make a very, very bulky Blissey. Ooh, this is cool. We got a fire build of Blissey here, playing Radiant Heat Rain and Moltres in the deck. That's interesting. I guess you can move the energy to your Heat Rain. You got to get damage on it via Magma Basin. That's an interesting concept, actually. It did get top 16 in a tournament, too. We got another grass build. I think we've already looked at that list already in the Ogerpon section. All right, we got an Arceus Blissey Vulpix deck. This one actually got top 4 in a tournament, too. So definitely looks kind of cool. Vulpix still isn't terrible. It might not be as good anymore because like it's not very good against like Dragapult, obviously. But against, Charizard, it can still win you the game. You got the 4 Charon's Care in the deck to heal your Arceus, heal your Blissey's. You got the Mist energy in the deck, just all in on the water energy. You got Serena in the deck for some healing, so not bad. Yeah, cool stuff, cool stuff. And now got another Blissey Monkey Dory deck, playing in the new Frostlass. And I guess I can show what the new Frostlass does here. It's got a really interesting ability, Chilling Curtain. During Pokemon checkup, put 1 damage counter on each Pokemon in play with any abilities, excluding Frostlass. Now, this obviously means your own Pokemon, but when your opponent has a bunch of abilities in play too, you're also piling up damage on them. Frostlass does stack, so you can stack its ability, which is kind of interesting. This build did get top 8, playing the 2-2 Frostlass. Now, you will be hitting your Monkey Dory and your Blissey, but I guess, like, the idea is you have the Charon's Care. Frostlass actually does activate Charon's Care, which there could be a niche use for that. And then, of course, you can also use Frostlass with Monkey Dory's ability to move the damage off. So I guess there is some natural synergy there. We got another Arc build here, Blissey. Just Arc Blissey with all the different type of energy, just a complete rainbow energy effect. We got a Blissey box deck playing some water stuff. It does play Pidgeot on the deck. Pidgeot with Blissey could be kind of cool. You do have Seapow on the deck, I guess mostly there for Shivery Chill. You have the Wellspring Ogerpon for the Snipe, it looks like. You got the Articuno on the deck that can instantly paralyze your opponent. It's more of like an Arc pile, but I guess you can like Arc energy into play, and then you can Blissey move the energy around to like a select attacker like Articuno or Ogerpon. That's kind of cool. Yeah, Arc and Blissey definitely seem like there is some synergy there. It's kind of like a reverse Armarouge in a way, or like if you were to play like Bronzong, something like that. And here we go. We got a straight up quad Blissey deck. Just 4-4 Blissey. No Monkey Dories, anything. Just 4 Blissey's. Playing some hammers in the deck, some Eries, TM Devo, Charon's Care, Judge. We got a Blissey Ogerpon. We might have already looked at this list already, too. Yeah, I think we've already looked at that. But those are all the Blissey decks. Again, I think Blissey looks kind of fun to play. There's a few different ways you can play it. I'm sure there's other ways you can play it, too, due to its like nature with its ability to move energy around. I really like the idea of like just 4 Blissey and then the 4 Monkey Dory. That build actually stands out to me as like a really interesting concept. So I'm definitely excited to try out Blissey with Monkey Dory. That does seem kind of cool for sure. All right, we have the Marching Festival deck. Now, if you don't know what this deck does, this one does look like it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, this deck might not be as good due to Charizard being a little less popular now, thanks to Dragapult. And this deck does, unfortunately, get absolutely just demolished by Dragapult. So the main concept of the deck is Diplin's going to be your main attacker. You got Festival Lead. If Festival Ground is in play, this Pokemon may be able to attack twice. Even if it knocks out an opponent's active Pokemon, you can still attack. So against Charizard, you do the Wave, which for one grass does 20 damage for each of your bench Pokemon. So you do 100 damage in total. But then since your ability will activate, you can attack twice, meaning that you can do 200 damage effectively for one energy if your bench is full. And then, of course, the Diplin being your main attacker gives you some extra support with the brand new Thwackey here, where once you're in turn, if your active Pokemon has Festival Fever ability, you can search your deck for any one card you want and then put in your hand. So you get like a Pidgeot EX ability as long as something is in the active with that Festival Fever ability. So you have like your own engine here with the Thwackey and the Diplin being your two main attackers. You do have like an interesting Goldeen in the deck and stuff. But again, this deck could be pretty strong. The only downside is with Dragapult being really popular now, we'll have to see if this deck can even compete, because Dragapult does eat this deck up. Obviously, Diplin doesn't have a lot of HP. Thwackey doesn't have a lot of HP. I mean, Diplin has 80 HP, yet to evolve it from Applin, which only has 40 HP. Dragapult will absolutely feast on this deck. So this deck might struggle in a Dragapult meta. If Charizard was still extremely popular, maybe this deck would be a little bit more successful. But there's a lot of lists here we can look at here. This one does, of course, play Rabsca, which might be one of the saving graces to help against Dragapult, is to play Rabsca. Rabsca does have that ability where Dragapult will not be able to put damage counters on your bench. So you can play Rabsca to help wall off Dragapult's attack that spreads damage, making it harder to kill your stuff. We got another build here. This one did get top 4 in a tournament. Once again, playing Rabsca. You don't really need to play any of the other attackers. The only other attackers like Swirlix and Goldeen, they're not really worth playing. You just want to lean into using the Diplin as your main attacker. I mean, it just does 200 damage. 200 damage sometimes gets the job done. This build playing at Maximum Belt as the A-Spec over Survival Cast like the other build. Max Belt does make sense. You can hit pretty hard. You can do 130 or 150, so you can do 300 damage effectively to an EX Pokemon, which is kind of sweet. A lot of these builds might be a little bit more straightforward in their approach, because there's really not much you can do with the deck. This one just plain Unfair Stamp. No Bibarel in the deck, so no Draw Engine. But you don't really need a Draw Engine when you already have Thwackey in the deck. It's kind of the idea. This one does play the Goldeen, does play the new Rillaboom. I guess I can show what those do, I guess. We can look at the new Rillaboom. It's nothing crazy. It does the attack, Drum Attack, does 1 for 60. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon's retreat cost is increased by 1. And then you have Wood Hammer for 2 grass, does 180 damage, and then does 52 itself, which isn't fantastic. But if you want to know what the Goldeen does, the Goldeen could be an annoying Pokemon to attack with. It's got that Festival Fever ability where, again, if the Plaza's in play, you can attack twice. And then your Whirlpool attack for 2 energy, flip a coin of heads, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So you can basically use Whirlpool to remove your opponent's energy. This might actually be good against Dragapult, in all fairness. You can actually make it hard for Dragapult to attack if you constantly hit them with Whirlpool, so maybe there's some synergy there with the Goldeen. In this build, once again, playing the Goldeen, playing the Applin too, or the Diplin, sorry. Like I said, Diplin's the main attacker in the deck. Nothing really too crazy. I think the Festival Grounds basically prevents your opponent, or prevents Pokemon from being affected by special conditions. I'm pretty sure that's what the Festival Ground does, if you're wondering. It's not like a crazy good stadium or anything like that. It's just mainly there to support the Thwackey and the Diplin. Yeah, a lot of lists are pretty straightforward. There's really nothing to like write home about with this deck. It would be pretty good in a Charizard meta, like I said, but Charizard is unfortunately slipping a little bit in Japan. But like I said, when the new set comes out, Charizard could still see some play. But this deck will struggle in a Dragapult format. I think if you are to play this Diplin Thwackey deck, you do have to play Rabsca at the very least so that you have a fighting chance against Charizard or against Dragapult, because Dragapult's a tough matchup. You see this build, dig at top 8, playing the Rabsca, plays Judge in the deck. There's a lot of different things you can play in here. The A-Specs can be like Unfair Stamp. You can play Prime Catcher. Max Belt doesn't seem bad either. It does let your Diplin do a little bit more damage to EXs. Actually would let you KO EXs a little bit easier. I guess you have Defiance Band too, which helps. You can play Vitality Band, which lets you do 220 damage with the Diplin. Vitality Band actually might seem pretty good in the deck too, because yeah, you can use Vitality Band to do 220, and that's decent math into like some stuff like Shempow and whatnot. So there's that too. And again, being able to grab any card you want out of your deck with Thwackey seems good. You can really innovate with how you want to build your deck. You can play Kieran. The new supporter Kieran seems like it could be pretty good within this deck too, to help you do more damage. Radiant Zard could be a decent attacker too in the late game to have. Just that one big attack with Radzard could be nice. So maybe Radzard is worth playing in the deck also. Could be kind of cute. It's like a big attacker because you can do okay damage, but you know, maybe you lack a little bit in the late game. But yeah, like I said, a lot of the builds are just kind of the same with how they're being built. There's nothing too crazy about the deck. Luxray actually could be pretty good in the deck, too. You can see this build playing Luxray. I don't hate the idea of playing Luxray. Would help against Charizard or just Pidgeot in general. Like, even against, because you probably want to fall behind with this deck. Like, against Dragapult, they're playing Pidgeot, which I think Pidgeot with Dragapult is going to be optimal, in my opinion. You can use Luxray to, like, remove those threats off the board and whatnot. So there is some synergy there with the Luxray. But there you have, folks. Those are all of the Mask of Change decks in today's video, the Twilight Masquerade Mask of Change decks, whatever you want to call it. We looked at some Ogerpon lists. I was really happy to look at some Palafin lists. Again, there's not a whole lot of lists for some of these decks here on Pokebook, but I did want to look at them nonetheless and see what were people in Japan using for some of these new cards. I was really interested in Palafin because I was really sad we didn't get to look at any Palafin decks in the previous video. But yeah, if y'all go on to enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. Leave a link to Pokebook here in the description if you want to go build any of these decks for yourself. You can look at Pokebook, or if you want to just kind of keep looking at Pokebook over the couple days, I'm sure they'll keep adding more decks here to their deck archive. But yeah, there you go. We got some Palafin, some Luxray. I'm really interested in the Luxray ideas. There's definitely a lot of unexplored potential there. We only looked at a few Luxray lists, but I do think there is a lot of potential with Luxray. Ogerpon box looks kind of cool. Blissey looks really fun too with Monkey Dory. Honestly, all the decks look pretty fun. The Festival deck looks kind of cool. We'll have to see if it can handle the onslaught of Dragapult. But there you have, folks. If you enjoyed today's video, like I said, leave a like and all that good stuff. I've already done my outro and all that jazz. But thanks for watching. I'm going to be in Indianapolis this weekend. This video, I think, is going up on Sunday or Saturday, one of the 2 days. So hopefully I see some of y'all at Indianapolis and all that good stuff. And I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.